folks, and this is Maggie Rose coming to you with the Mike Effect Radio Broadcast Network. And this is the Concord Hour. And please bouncing back at me again, so I'm hoping that Shelby might be able to help us with that. Today's date, June 16th, 2016. And I want to thank those of you who are in the chat room right now. Betty Boop, Bonnie, and let's see, folks. Hopefully you all can hear us out there. We're having some problems again with technology, I guess. But anyway, I want to thank all of you that are in the chat room right now. I understand that Sai is with us, and Betty Boop, Bonnie, Hardway. Oh, wow, Jebedar, good. Welcome to the show. And Joe and Pet Monkey and Theocrat. Today's show is going to be a really extra special show. I've been looking forward to this for days now. And before we get into that and our very special guest that we have here right now, we first want to bring you up to date real quickly about what's going on. What is going on with the Bundys right now as political prisoners? Some of them are not being allowed to. Some of them are not being allowed to have the lawyers of choice, and we've been understanding that their due process is still being violated. And we also understand that Cliven Bundy right now is still trying to find a way that he can have the current attorney recused from her position, Judge Navarro, and we're understanding that the judge is refusing to recuse herself. There's so much corruption, folks, at all different levels within the federal government, as you all know. As you heard about the other day up in Harney County, the sheriffs up there have been harassing the people that have been trying to put up a memorial to Lavoie, who was murdered, as you know, by the federal government. So we're going to be talking about that again in the days ahead. But today's part one of two parts. We're going to be having the second part coming up on Tuesday. We have our guest right now is David M. I think it's pronounced Zuniga. He is hailing us from Texas. He is the founder and the CEO of America Again. Welcome, David. Can you hear us all right?
I can hear you, Maggie. Thank you.
Okay. Now, you contacted me a few months ago and asked if we would be interested in bringing you up on the show. And I was finally able to make some contact with you. And you were able to kind of share with me about America Again. I had never heard about America Again. And being if I hadn't heard about it, and I've been involved with the communication alternative media since the 1990s, I thought this is really important that we try to bring you on board to share with us what we can do to have a proactive, nonviolent, ethical, moral ability to be able to try to bring back our country. And you and your group, your other co-founders, have come up with some really wonderful ideas about how we can take back America. And so some of the questions I would like to ask of you is, how did America Again begin? Some of the questions that you and I discussed is, what exactly is it? What is its mission? What action is your group taking first? And how can people get involved? And so we're going to do this in a two-part today and then again next Tuesday. And I'm hoping that you can educate us in what we need to do as far as trying to bring back America. And I understand from Shelby that they have a huge lightning storm coming up there in Idaho. So if she ends up losing us, she'll be able to let us know. But let's keep on going as long as we can, and hopefully the lightning storm will not take out the micro effect up there in Idaho while we're on the air.
Okay. Well, we'll do what we can. And thanks, Maggie. And let me first say, I'm going to have to fly through this because we only have 2 hours today and Tuesday. So this is normally something that takes about 4 hours to do. So I'm going to go through things in kind of a quick way. But you can download these podcasts and listen to them again. Everything I'm talking about today and next Tuesday is in my latest book. It's called Fear the People. We offer it free in the PDF edition at the bottom of our homepage at americaagain.net. So in both my books, This Bloodless Liberty and Fear of the People, I propose that we're living the most exciting time in a... But for you to see why this is so, you're going to have to first... I kind of need to lay some foundation first about our terrible condition. And I mean structurally. I mean the economy and how it works and why it works that way. So you'll see why the full spectrum plan that we have at America Again is really the only way forward. It's the only way we're going to come back out of Great Depression 2, which is coming toward us like a freight train right now.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this, David? Being that I have some people recording this show with you and with me on Tuesday, can we also bring you back next Thursday, and that way we can do it at least over a 3-hour period of time? So we can
that would be
today?
Great. That would be great. That would make a lot more sense because it's a lot of stuff. Now, I'm going to fly through today, but you just need to know, even in 3 hours, you'll still get everything you need if you go to our website, okay? You can get it in the book, Fear the People. You can get it. We've got videos. We have podcasts. There's a lot of stuff on our website. It's a temporary website. The new one's coming up in 5 weeks. But you won't miss anything. We'll fill you in. Once you join, you'll get everything you need. You will not be lacking an action plan, I promise you. And you'll see that even by the end of this hour. So let me start at the beginning. There's a book called Hamilton's Curse. I told you about it the other day, Maggie, when we talked on the phone, by Thomas DiLorenzo. That book is very important reading for anyone that wants to know how we got where we are today. That book exposes Alexander Hamilton. He was the father of Wall Street. That's where his crypt is. That's where his body is buried, on Wall Street. He's the financial industry, the father of the financial industry that has owned us and owned the world practically ever since. So in 1862, Congress and Abe Lincoln launched a counterfeiting operation. Then in 1871, the U.S. Supreme Court joined that counterfeiting by backing it, by saying, yep, it's fine, yep, it's moral, ethical, and legal, none of which was true. So for 145 years, all three of our servant branches have been co-conspirators in multi-trillion-dollar financial felonies. We cover this in a 1-hour movie called America Again, the movie. It's on YouTube. It's on our website. We show you the 7 major felonies that Congress is running. So when you understand how this goes, you start saying, oh, whoa, we have a lot of work to do. Let me keep going with the history. In 1913, Congress outsourced that counterfeiting operation it had going since 1862. They outsourced it to a cartel, to the Fed cartel. And Woodrow Wilson covered their tracks very quickly by pushing us into Europe's first war. The banking and war industries made billions of dollars. And then the following generation, the banksters triggered the Great Depression, so FDR could push us into another European war and steal the people's gold, give them worthless paper in return. Then in 1944, the Fed cartel stole the whole world's gold when it made the 44 Allied countries sign the Bretton Woods Agreement in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. That meant that Fed-branded paper was now going to be the whole Western world's trading currency. So this has been done incrementally, but it started with Hamilton, and you need to see that. And it really turned the corner during the war to enslave the states, while 750,000 Americans were being killed in 4 years. Almost 1/2 of all property value in the United States was destroyed. So understand the shock and awe of Lincoln's war and how this worked in the bankers' direction. They had us. They had it. We were totally shocked. So, but here's the thing about the financial sector. It doesn't produce anything for society except burdens. Congress made all of this stuff possible, too, through its regulation. It has passed generations of enabling legislation and regulations that directly violate the Constitution's money clauses. Why did we let them do this? How can we let this continue? Well, we can't. It's going to fall.
Exactly.
So, the past 3 generations, American companies have been conditioning us, to consume and to live in greater and greater debt and to acquire things we can't afford and we don't need. This is all, when you really look at it, there's a large group of entities on the other side of this thing, and they employ millions and millions of Americans. Alexander Hamilton's dream, his banking and war aristocracy enslaved the whole world.
Right.
Now, here's the big problem. We loved every minute of it. We forged our own chains from our own envy and our own lust. We wanted the bigger this, more that, the bigger house, the vacation, the better job, the this and that. Congress and U.S. multinational corporations, what they next did is they sold our consumer market to foreign manufacturers, and then they bought cheap foreign labor by moving their plants over offshore. Okay,
right,
and you might not like tariffs, and you might say, "Oh, I'm not a Keynesian. I'm an Austrian economist, and I want open markets." Really? You want open markets? You're stuck in a failed model. Think about it. Tens of millions of Americans live in gated communities with 3 SUVs, 8 credit cards, a huge mortgage, 2 vacations every year, spending more on the care and feeding of their pets than half of the world's population spends on feeding their whole family.
Exactly. Everybody trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Right.
And it really it upsets me when I see the kind of money that these rich, I call them the rich bitches, the well-to-do, the elitists are spending, and we have children up in the Appalachian Mountains and the ghettos that are starving.
But it's not just the wealthy, Maggie. It's everybody wants more. They're being taught to want more from the time they're little children. Meanwhile, while we're living like this and have been living like this for a century, you've got 1 billion potential workers for American industry that'll gladly work for $10 a day and no benefits. And they're there, and they're going to take those jobs. So guess what? We buy their products. Guess what they buy from us? What do they buy that you and I produce? Nothing.
Nothing.
So how long? See, when you open the markets up and you create truly free markets, how long do you think it's going to last? Okay.
Not very long. It's going to implode upon itself. And that's one of the things I was wondering is that there's so many people out there that want to blame the Jewish bankers. It's the Jewish bankers' fault. We already know that the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers are part of this, but I don't think we can blame all the Jewish bankers. I think we have to blame ourselves.
Not just that. Yeah. They're sort of the snakes in the middle of the pit, but they're not alone. See, and the thing is, legislators have no intention of stopping any of this. This is a hijacking that's been going on a long time. They started it by counterfeiting our money. They started it. Whenever a legislator tells you they want to stop this, that is a complete lie. They're making it worse. Right now what they're doing is bringing in illegal alien workers to the doorstep of every American industry so they don't have to ship the jobs off. They're going to do them here now, and guess what? They're going to do them with foreign labor that's here illegally. And American corporations own Congress the way it is.
Oh, yeah.
The alpha wolf is, and not just Jewish, but mostly whatever, they started it. The alpha wolf is the financial industry. So some more numbers here. Okay, after the 2008 collapse, Congress has only pushed financial and monetary policies even worse. They don't touch D.C. organized crime. The system's collapsing because we have A, too much debt, B, too little economic growth. Like I just explained, when all the jobs are somewhere else because you let Congress allow American corporations to ship them overseas, you can't buy things now because you don't have enough money, so you're not going to be paying much taxes. The tax rolls drop, goes further and further and further in debt. Bretton Woods, back in 1944, put the Fed cartel in control of all the central banks in the Western world, not just its own machine here. So, and then since this global debt, total global debt, has grown to over $200 trillion. Work the numbers. It's impossible for the world to pay it back.
Exactly.
When you add derivatives, $650 trillion in additional systemic risk to all the balance sheets of those world's largest banks, give me a break. This has no good end. Right. Almost $500 trillion of derivative load is carried on the balance sheets of the 5 largest U.S. banks. they're insolvent, totally insolvent.
Oh, totally.
So
Right.
in the best case, this is terrible. What's coming isn't the best case. So, and I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's sick and crazy. But I'm saying all of this because we need to say, okay, we need to see how bad this is. This is coming. It's going to get very ugly. It's going to be ugly for years. People are going to have very hard. Great Depression 2 is going to be much bloodier and tougher than Great Depression 1 was. Debt grew by more than 40% just since the bailout, while the economy grew by 18%. That's how much further upside down we are. I mean, something has to give. D.C. can't generate the income it needs to service its debt. $19.3 trillion and growing, and it's not just the $19.3 trillion. It's the unfunded liabilities of, in some cases, over 200. Some people estimate over $210 trillion. Net present value. That's if we had that cash today. That's what it would take. Meanwhile, the productive sector is shrinking and shrinking out of business. See how the freight train is coming? See how everybody says they can't live without their government checks. Guess what? It's an illogical, unethical fantasy. It's immoral. You can't do this anymore. Okay. So, on the one hand, deep reform of the system is going to collapse the system, so they won't reform it. On the other hand, staying on our present course is collapsing the system. So this is a classic dilemma, and it's the result of generations. Like you said, Maggie, it's us, all of us have done this. Not just the counterfeiters in Congress, not just the fraudsters and embezzlers in the financial industry. The moral turpitude, we taught our servants that crime pays. And we've done this for generations. And they have taught us and trained us, millions of us, to produce nothing but still demand a check from government. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. And you know what? And I heard time and again, prior even to Obama, they said that anybody that collects a welfare check is going to be made to go out to work at least 4 hours a day. But there were no teeth to their threats. They did not follow through with what they said they were going to do.
It's not just welfare, Maggie. If you look at Social Security, it's a monster. You look at Medicare, it's a monster. And these are sick people, and these are older people that paid in all their lives, and they demand to get their money back, even though they paid in $33,000 and they're getting $250,000 back. I mean, it doesn't. The numbers don't work, and we're hurting. We say, I can't give up my check. I earned that. Look. I'm just telling you what's coming, okay? There's no future to this system except look at one crash mode or another crash mode, but the crash is coming. So, okay, that's part of it. Everybody says it's somebody else's fault. Look, what's been happening, economists call it moral hazard. It's where you spread a cost out over a lot of people so they can't feel it, and you're just, you're getting a concentrated benefit, but everybody else just feels a tiny little pinprick. Well, we've all been playing that game. Too many of us have been playing that game. Now, you've got 93 million Americans out of the workforce. They don't work and they can't work. Most of them can't get a job. Profits aren't rising from automation because when tech becomes cheaper and robotics become more widespread, that only lets in more competitors, entry-level competitors into every industry. So your profits are still shrinking. Even though your overhead went down, so did your profits. And then Americans are cutting consumption because they're either unemployed or underemployed. So you see how it works? This is all a giant worldwide clam that we're getting squished in. And the bankers have been laughing and laughing and laughing for generations. And the big corporations have been laughing as they sent all of our jobs overseas. And now we're paying the piper. We're all going to pay the piper. Okay, it's hard to think about, but it's the only way to break this destructive cycle of organized crime, of national vice, is to have a Great Depression. It's the only way. I'm sorry. You need national repentance. And go back in history. How do you get national repentance? First, you have national calamity and hardship. So that's just the way it is. Now let's look at the good side. Now let's look at what we have on our side of the table, because if it's coming anyway, how the heck are we going to come out on the other side? We'd better come out better off and not worse off, right? So my book shows you, point by point, chapter by chapter, how we're going to come out better off than we've been in 200 years. And I mean factually. I show it to you point by point. You know, today in sub-Saharan Africa, 78% of people have cell phone service. A barefoot African herdsman can use his mobile device. He can check the weather, and that's pretty revolutionary for a barefoot African herdsman, you know, to know the weather tomorrow and all week. But for years, these people, they've also been using their smartphones to learn English, and that allows them to look up medical diagnoses to ailments that would have been terminal illnesses in their village just 3 years ago. You know, technology is changing everything about the way the world works, except us. We, the people, with our own self-government, are sitting here stuck on stupid, and I'm including PhDs, all kinds of people with masters and other advanced degrees, entrepreneurs, tough-minded Americans, you know, moms, farmers, ranchers, letting our servants operate by 19th century backroom legislative procedures that are as corrupt as anything, and we know it. We know they're corrupt, but we're sitting here clueless. Billionaires in industry are running through their K Street law firms. They're running Congress. They write all the laws that are wrecking our lives, create more Big Brother intrusions every month and year. This is bizarre, people. Why are we allowing this? So in my book, Fear the People, I start unpacking this, and I say, you know how to fix it? Here's how, and here's how, and here's how. So next 2 hours, the parts 2 and 3 of this interview, I'm going to start unpacking it for you. But I'm just saying, by God's grace, today's technology made it pretty much inevitable that somebody in this country is going to develop a mobile app like the one we propose. It's called the America Again Indictment Engine. I'll talk about that part of the mission on the next interview, but it's just a really simple thing. The algorithms are tough, but the idea is very simple. And it's like the barefoot African herdsman saying, hey, you know what? I've got this. Do with it. That's what we're going to start doing. Okay? That's the indictment engine. And we'll get into today. I had to wake you up with the bad news where we are, because Congress is proliferating all this stuff, federal laws and agencies and bureaus and fees and permits and fines and all the stuff they pile on us, because we don't know how to get control of Congress. You've got to get control of that branch. That's the branch. And so I show you a little bit here at the end of this hour. I'll start it. But I show you how we're going to bring Congress home. Take them out of Washington, D.C., break them up, split them up, make it 15 times larger, the U.S. House, like it was called for in the original First Amendment, which still hasn't been ratified. So the first thing we're going to do is ratify the original First Amendment. But we have to regain control of Congress. Then we start taking back everything we've lost to organized crime over generations. And we will be in better shape than we've been in at least 150 years. That's what America is.
Can we not only take back Congress, but can we also deal with the Senate as well? I mean, does the Senate, will the Senate come along?
By Congress, I mean Congress is the overall, it is the House and Senate.
Right.
Congress means House and Senate. So, yes, America Again it's a perpetual charitable trust. It's meant to last as long as the Constitution does. When I die, when others in our team die, there's going to be others. We're having an elected leadership of trustees around the country. So it's a member organization and a perpetual charitable trust. So it's going to be around a long, long time. It's a new way of life for repentant people, just the remnant that wants to work on this, just the remnant of you that say, hell yeah, I want to do this. Absolutely, I want to govern myself. I sure do. I want to do what's right. I want to restore that limited government, that sound money, the things that we stipulated in our Constitution. By enforcing that Constitution, I want to do that. Yeah, count me in. Okay, that's what America Again is. We only need half of 1%, actually less than half of 1% of the adult American population to make this work really well. Our website, again, is americaagain.net, and you can get a lot more information there, even though, like I said, it's a temporary website. The real interactive site with a national community and maps and all the stuff, that goes live at the end, the last week in July. Our mission of America Again is to recruit, educate, equip, support, and organize the American remnant, just the ones that want to do it, to do four things at the federal level. Number one, bring Congress home forever. That's the biggest one. Number two, take back everything Washington, D.C. has stolen from us over 150 years. Number three, provide a mechanism to enforce the Constitution from now on. And that's the America Again indictment engine that I've mentioned earlier. And then number four, working beside Oath Keepers, restore constitutional homeland security. And that's the local militia that we stipulated we were going to do in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15. We tell ourselves the only chore we give ourselves in the Constitution is we say that we will execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. We're not doing any of those three. Some local militias are trying very hard, but we're just not doing it. So
that's right.
First, at the state level, by next year, we plan to have 27 more state legislatures finish ratifying the original First Amendment.
Okay.
That amendment was passed by Congress and sent to the states in 1789, and it was already ratified by 11 states. But there it stopped.
What we're going to do, we're going to go to a station break, and when we come back from that station break, I want you to finish your last thought about when we get 27. We have a break at the bottom of the hour. David, folks, this is David Zuniga, and he's with America Again. You can find him on AmericaAgain.net. He's going to be coming back next Tuesday and Thursday, and now we have people asking for him to come back the following Tuesday. So this is Maggie Rose. This is the new Concord Hour being brought to you by the Microsect, and we're going to be right back with our special guest from Texas on the other side of the hour. Everybody knows, folks. Everybody knows. We need to make sure that those that are still falling asleep at the wheel, that they also know, and that we can get rid of this normalcy bias, that everything's okay, and that we are conspirators, that we are warmongers. That just is not true. Everybody knows that we've been taken to the cleaners over the last 5 generations at least. Now, folks, I have some of you here that are in the chat room listening to David talk about America Again, and you're all saying we want him here for 4 days. Let's do it. Better to effectively cover than review. That's coming from Pet Monkey. Okay? They're also saying, David, thank you so much. We love solution-minded people. You're helping to focus on the positive and not the negative. Now, folks, so what we're going to do, if David is game to this, we're going to have him come back next Tuesday on the 21st of June. That's next Tuesday here on the Concord Hour on the 21st of June. Then on the 22nd is, as you know, Wednesday is Ladies Roundtable with Cy and Donna, and we will probably be talking about his show, and with the ladies also bringing in how they're maybe even going to get the people in the community to start implementing this. Then we will bring back David next Thursday on the 23rd, and if he's game, we'll bring him back again on Tuesday, the 28th of June. So we're going to look at it next Tuesday, the 21st with David, the 23rd with David, and the 28th with David. And these shows will be recorded as well for you folks to be able to reach it up at the archives on the Microsect or also bring them up on YouTube. Just remember, it's the Microsect Radio Broadcasting Network. We're here to educate, and we're here to organize in a nonviolent way to come up with solutions. As Bonnie said, she loves solution-minded people. David and his people are solution-minded people, and this is focusing on the positive, not the negative, as Valerie said. So with that in mind, folks, as David just said at the beginning of the hour, we are going to have another depression, much worse than the one we had before. But it will be less painful if more of you get your families and friends together to educate themselves, to start prepping as if there was going to be an earthquake or a typhoon or hurricane or whatever. So there will be less dependency, and you will not have to go down to your post office, get your name on a bread line, and be sent to the FEMA camp. So with that in mind, David, thank you again for coming back to the show. And are you going to be able to do this again on the 28th as well as the 21st and the 23rd?
I will try, yeah. I think so, Maggie. I guess a lot of it depends on whether people are joining America Again from your audience. And if they do join, they need to tell me that they came from your show, because right now I'm just kind of stretched every which way. But I'll certainly, I've just put it on my calendar here on Outlook, so I'm tentatively tied to you for 3 more shows. So we could do 30.
Okay.
If we wanted to go through the book, we could. I'm doing, with Vince Finelli at USA Prepares, I'm doing a 30-week series walking all the way through the book. And we've done 4 weeks, and we're doing 1 a week. So it's going to take a long time that way. I tell people all the time, look, one of the things you need to remember is don't have a morose atmosphere around you and in your heart and in your mind morning, noon, and night. On the first page of my book, Fear the People, I make this statement that I made at the beginning of this lecture here, that this is really the best time in 200 years of American history to be alive. And people don't believe it, so I say, look, my book is only 82 pages long. It's a very short book. There's another 100 pages of other material, appendices behind it. But the body of the book is 82 pages. It takes about 4 hours maybe to read at the most. It is, it's very upbeat because it is an answer. I was an engineer for 29 years and designing buildings, an architectural engineer. And I used to do, structural, mechanical, electrical, architectural, the whole bit. And so when you see how all the systems come together and you sketching and drawing the building and drawing the systems and working out, doing all the analyses on the different software and trying to work through all the interference models of all, this structure bangs into this ductwork, whoops, this piping won't work here. And you see all the problems. It can really get you down. In the middle of a design, especially a big building, I used to go crazy. But by the end, after you've worked all the details out and you're walking out there on the job site with the subcontractors and seeing how the things fit, and then when you walk through it's finished, you go, it all works. And right now, my family, I've been a law-abiding non-taxpayer for 20 years. I've been very, very free of all the record-keeping and all of that stuff. I've got, in fact, a separate tax honesty website called taxhonestyprimer, PRIMER.com, where I talk to you about what I've done those 20 years, what I've learned, and I go through the law, and I go through the cases, and I show you all the people that I've talked to, 14 agents of the IRS that I've sort of wrangled with over the years. I give you their names and show how I sent every one of them home empty-handed, and I show you how this cage that you live in is your cage. You built it. You built it by not performing due diligence as an adult. So that's just tax honesty. I left the church. My family left the church after trying every franchise, whatever you want, denomination in Christendom over 30 years. We finally just left and started a house church with a bunch of other families that's been going so well. And we don't have any of the usual BS and all the bills and the 501c3s and the buildings and the choirs and the meetings and all that crap. It's just a bunch of families that work together, live together, worship together. Our kids do stuff together. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. We're self-employed. I've been self-employed all my life. So we don't have the usual, when we see stories about what's going on in the schools, we're not in the schools. When we see stories about what's going on in huge layoffs in corporate America, we're not there. We're self-employed. It's hard, but we do it. When we see all these things about taxes, we don't care. We don't pay taxes, and we're lawfully doing this. So as you look at each of these things and you start seeing, when I see all these failing pastors and all these big fake frauds in the pulpit and stuff, we don't play that game. We're out of that church. We're part of the real church. just like people in China and all over the world are. We're like the New Testament church. So there are so many great things happening today that if you do the hard work, none of it is easy. All of it is hard. But it's wonderful and full of joy. It makes such a difference in your life, and you can see things much more clearly. So, the glass is half full, guys. The glass is really half full right now in this country. In this country, like no other on earth, we have the lawful authority to do these things. Not just the power, not just the right. We have the authority. The law starts, we the people do ordain. Our Constitution is ours. We're over it, not under it. I always have to tell people that. We're the only power, we're the only human power over the Constitution. All governments in America are under the Constitution. We, the people, are over it. When we get together as a grand jury, to convene a grand jury, we don't have to listen to a judge. Yes, we convene inside the courthouse because it's ours. But we don't have to. We don't listen to a judge or a prosecutor. That is the purpose of the grand jury. You know how old that is?
Yeah.
It's 1,000 years old. It doesn't go back to Magna Carta like a lot of people teach. It goes back to the Compact of Ethelred in 1014 A.D. We've got the most fantastic heritage that we're just not using. So that's what Fear the People, my book, does. I unpack this stuff, and I show you where to put each thing, how to join, how to start a group in your town. We're in 110 towns right now and growing fast.
110 towns. Wow.
We need to be in your town. Everybody listening right now, if you start, you call me, we will talk, we will work together, and I will get you everything I and my team Matt and Joy and Mary and the other people on our team, we will get you what you need when you need it. But let me tell you something. This is the best time to be today, right now. This has been going on since before Lincoln. The bad guys have had us since before Lincoln. We just didn't know it. Because of the Internet, we're freaking out and think everything's getting much, much worse. No. We're just seeing it much, much more. See? We're just seeing more of the bad. It's not that there is more of the bad. There's a lot more good today that you've got to plug into. That's what my book, Fear the People, is about. I plug you in. I show you lots of stuff you can do right now today. Starting right now today. Okay, so next time we're going to start unpacking the actions that we're going to do nationally. How we're going to do them, why we need to do them. But America Again was developed over more than 25,000 hours of R&D, over 8 years, 27 volunteers, hundreds of books, historic documents, website. We studied not only the collapse of who caused it and all that, how organized crime works, we went through every Save America plan that we could find on the Internet, in videos, everywhere we could find it. A lot of excellent people and organizations are teaching, and they're talking. I mean, year after year, they're teaching and talking. That's what they do. They do the talk circuit. They write book after book after book. They host conferences. They produce beautiful videos. But you know what? None of them has a coherent plan of action to actually start doing stuff. I mean, they ask you for tax-deductible donations every day, week, whatever, every time you visit. They have zero intention and zero plan to pursue D.C. organized crime and to end this hijacking. And that's what it is. We're sitting on a plane hijacked and have been since our great-great-great-great-grandparents were doing the same thing.
Well, David, well, one of the things I wanted to bring up and ask you, I found out not long ago, and you kind of backed me up on this and confirmed it, that actually almost all of our tax dollars that the IRS gets from us are actually going overseas. And what upsets me is that I have family members that are now having $200,000 and $300,000 liens being put on their homes. I have some very close, intimate relatives right now that the federal government, the IRS, is saying, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go after more than one-third of your income starting in August, and we're going to start taking $460 of your military pension that you're getting, and we're going to start taking that back because we've determined that you still owe us $1,000 here and $7,000 over there. And even if you go back and try to refile in a more correct way, the IRS is still saying, well, we've gone to the DOD now, and now we're going to start taking out of your pension every month more than 1/3 of your pension. How can people stop the IRS from doing this?
I don't know about particular cases, and I do not give tax advice or legal advice, but those thousands of people who have read taxhonestyprimer.com, that's my hobby website, all about my 20 years beating the IRS. All I show you is what I know personally. You don't have to believe it. I'm just telling you what I have lived for 20 years.
And that's just got a lot of people upset is because, like Pet Monkey said, we know something's coming. We can hear the train. It hasn't come around the corner yet. We know there's going to be an artificially created stock market crash or one created
it doesn't have. You don't need to artificially create it. The numbers are astounding.
Really?
They're astounding. Yeah. I mean, right now the bankers are backing up so fast they don't know what to do. I'll give you next time. I'll try to give you the names of several more books, but let me finish what I had for today because boy, we're not going to get done.
Okay.
So let me say, there's lots of people doing lots of things in this country. There's still Ron Paul Revolution people out there. There's the Tea Party still out there. There's various secessionist movements in different states, including Texas, of course. There's the Second Amendment movement going completely off the rails, not understanding Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15, not understanding we have to restore the militia. Don't worry about the right to your guns. You've got a duty with your guns. Anyway, I don't want to get off on that because I get really odd. But there's the 10th Amendment groups like 10th Amendment Center. We love them, love Mike Golden and everything they're doing, but them and the nullification groups, there's people calling for constitutional convention. There's those that are pushing for constitutional sheriffs. There's those that are forming grand juries for ad hoc deals here and there and everywhere. Even tax honesty, like I've talked about, that I've been a part of for 20 years. Look, none of those is a full spectrum solution. It's like staring at the grave of Lavoy Finicum for the next 10 years. It's like arguing about the death of John F. Kennedy like my compatriots did for 30 years. You know what, folks? You're not getting it. This is what they do to keep us wrapped up in knots for years and years, wasting our time, creating bile acid, hating everybody. Understand that's how they work. Stay away. Stay awake. That's what my book, Fear the People, is all about. It puts you back at peace. You understand you have the power, and you see how to affect the power. I want your people to start signing up for America Again. It's $9 a month. It's as cheap as we can make it. And all we want you to do this year is you join and get 3 others in your town. I don't care how small your town is. We are looking at the 31,000 towns that are under 10,000 people in the United States. Those, in this republic, that's where America lives. That's where America hasn't been beat down by the liberal left and weirdos and, by Hollywood. And so the small towns is where we're really focusing. But right now, the least effective thing you can do is keep on getting angry every day and running around in circles with, electoral politics, thinking that somebody, that some politician's going to save you. They will not do it. When you go to our website, AmericaAgain.net, please read my latest blog article. I just put it up yesterday. I forget what I called it. I think I called it From Serfs to Sovereigns. I think I called it that. And it talks about how you deal with the people under that granite dome when you go to your state capital. And why, as an architectural engineer, I tell you what monumental architecture does to your psyche. What it does. It does something. And I show you that. So when you're under that granite dome, when you're around those people in fancy suits and huge buildings, something happens to you. You get transmogrified into the serf when you're really the sovereign. So I teach you that in that. By the way, we have every Sunday night We have a 1-hour call, a national call. If you go to our website, AmericaAgain.net, click on the big red button that says Take Action, and that'll give you the information for the call-in for Sunday nights. And like I told you, every Friday I've got a show where I'm walking through the book week by week. That's at USA Prepares. So at the USA Prepares website for the next 26 weeks, I'll still be walking you through the book. So if you understand that, guys, this has been the case. Organized crime has had us by the throat for a long time. In 1935, there was a little book written, War is a Racket, written by General Smedley Butler, the most decorated U.S. Marine Corps general in history. And he went all over America talking about it, all over the country, trying to get people to see that war, it was organized crime. And he described what he did, he and other generals did, what the military was doing, the banking industry was doing, what the oil industry was doing. That was in 1935, guys. We've known this for a long time. I think I told you about this one as well, Maggie, yesterday or day before when we talked. In 1969, there was a much bigger book, much more book by criminologist Donald Cressy. It was called Theft of the Nation. You can't get it anymore except in used bookstores. I found mine for about $10. Anyway, it goes through organized crime in detail. This is a criminologist telling you Washington, D.C. is organized crime. That was in 1969, people.
Now, who is the author of that book?
Donald Cressy, Cressey. Okay.
Folks, that's your homework assignment. Go out and get that book.
Then the third book is newer, much newer. It's a 2012 book by Professor Thomas D. Lorenzo, D-I-L-O-R-E-N-Z-O, D. Lorenzo. It's called Organized Crime, The Unvarnished Truth About Government. And chapter by chapter, he just walks you through and shows you how criminal, and that's really, literally criminal, our government is. So, when you have organized crime, you can't solve it with politics. You have to solve it with law enforcement. And if you've always thought that law enforcement was a bad thing, you've never read Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 of the Constitution, where we charge our own selves with executing the laws of the Union. It's our job. Every able-bodied man and woman in every town in America has a job. Self-government requires that we be not just vigilant, looking around, staring at stuff. Sometimes you have to take action. I'm not saying that's necessary yet, but we certainly can't sit around asking for, a 16-inch or 14-inch long barrel, a 30-round magazine, a different, I want my shotgun to be able to have this. Come on, folks. It's a joke. It's a joke what we do with the Second Amendment. Why do you talk about the Second Amendment? That's a backdoor thing. Anyway, I'm getting off, but
that's okay.
Next time we're going to start unpacking what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and that's going to take a couple of hours.
Well, that's great. So what we're going to do, David, thank you so much for coming up again. Would you give your website one more time, please, to the American people?
AmericaAgain.net. There's lots there to see, folks. Start learning. Please join. If you don't put your town on the map, you're just as good as not there. So join us and plug in.
Oh, God bless you, David, so much. I'm so excited by this. In fact, folks, I'm going to make a commitment right now. I'm going to join in the next 30 minutes myself. Folks, we're going to bring David back next week on the 21st of June. That's the Big 2-1 next Tuesday, and next Thursday on the Big 2-3, the 23rd of June. And if he's able, we're going to try to bring him back on the 28th, and I'm sure many other times besides those three. Again, folks, this is Maggie Rose. This is the new Concord Hour being brought to you by the Micro Effect Radio Broadcasting Network, and we have proactive ways now that we can take back our country non-violently and with no bloodshed. So, folks, again, tune in to David's website, AmericaAgain.net. Make sure that if you want to write to the people on his board, there are email sites there that I've seen. We can take take back our country one town at a time. You don't have to have 10,000 or less people in your township. You can have more, but we need to start reaching our neighbors and our friends and saying, guess what? We have a way to close down Washington, D.C. and create a smaller government that we, the people, are over the Constitution, not under the Constitution, and we are part of the real Constitution, not the other two constitutions that the government is frauding us under. So, David, thank you again.
Thank you, Maggie. Look forward to being back.
Okay, bye-bye, folks.